That happens when you read the Bible out of love, out of compassion, out of these high frequency emotions which are connected to the higher chakras from your heart upwards. And so these are these emotions which bring in these feelings of connectedness, of alignment, of being there. And so you can say a prayer, and it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're Buddhist, you're Sikh. When you say your prayer, but it's spoken from the heart in love and in compassion, that creates alignment in that moment, that it creates alignment in a 15-year-old and a 50-year-old in the same way. When you come from love and compassion and you practice your path with that love and compassion, it feels elevating. It feels like something you want to share with the world. We know how well that goes, you know.
Hey, Next Evolution podcast family. This is your man, Chaplain Bailey. Chaplain to some, pastor to many, and spiritual advisors to a very few. I am excited that you have taken your time to tune in to the Next Evolution podcast, either here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. You have come at a very important time to hear a phenomenal conversation that will take place shortly between myself and our special guest, Amrit Singh, who's going to come to us momentarily. I want to encourage you to go ahead on and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or you can subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Boy, we got a conversation that is in store for you. So just hang in there after the intro, and we'll come back with our guests on the other side. Thank you. We are live. We have our guest. Well, I'm sorry, we're not live. It is live conversation, but this is a recorded conversation between myself and Amrit Singh. Amrit, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to have you here. Man, we connected, had a conversation probably about a month ago now or something like that. And as you know, as we've talked about before today, I am interested in learning a lot about yourself, what you do, but also finding the connecting points. A lot of our audience, they are individuals who are spiritual and religious, some of them not so much, but they're trying to find some connections, right? I was doing some research, speaking of connections, and finding out where people are in the world when it relates to spirituality. And so doing some research this weekend, and just came across a few articles that discussed in many ways how people are becoming more spiritual and not religious. Now, that means different things to different people. But from my background, for everyone listening, I'm a Christian. That's my religious background. That's kind of how I make a difference in the world through that vein. And obviously, we're all can become a product of our environment, right? So I have been a pastor for well over 20 years. Most of you who are in our listening audience, frequent listening audience, you know that already. I am currently a chaplain, which means I spend a great deal of my time helping people work through the transitory stages of life. But our goal with Next Evolution is not only to help people find a sense of who they are as it relates to religion and spirituality, but we are really focused on ushering in a new era of enlightenment through spiritual growth and personal growth. And I'm telling you, Amrit, when I talk about spiritual growth and personal growth, and I ran across your bio, I'm like, this will be a wonderful conversation. So I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today. So if you will indulge me just a little bit. I like humor. That's kind of the way I see the world a little bit as well. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Go ahead on and tell. I've been talking a lot because I'm excited. I really am. And I'll tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited because I love meeting people from different cultures with different cultural experiences that I have know nothing about or have very little to no exposure to. And so for me, it's like going into another world. It's like, oh man, I never knew that. And you learn so much. And I love learning as well. And so my wife, even more so than I do, she is a big time learner. So go ahead on and at least give us an intro to who you are and maybe what excites you in the world. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'll let you
Yeah,
speak even more. Yeah.
for me, I was really looking forward to this podcast with you because like right off the bat, I had the same feeling. I really connected with you. I saw your profile. I saw that you're a chaplain and a pastor. And I was like, oh my God, I want to talk to him. You know, it's going to be so much fun because I really like this connection and really this difference of spirituality and religion. You know, like for me, like I have this turban and the beard. And so I look really religious. You know, my wife always makes fun of me with that. You know, and she's like, dude, you look so religious. You know, no wonder people treat you in a different way. I'm like, yeah, but I really like the turban. I really like the beard. So for me, it comes down to this very simple quote, which I always love, which is, we are spiritual beings having a human experience on this planet. We're not human experience or human beings having a spiritual experience. And so I always would take it a step further, you know. We're not religious beings having a human experience through spirituality. You know, we're spiritual beings which come down on this planet, would live this human experience. And then, yeah, sometimes religion is really helpful and can be a tool and can really help us go forward. And sometimes it can be a block. And sometimes it can really pull us back. And so for me, I don't want to attach so much to that, which is a funny one, because when I go outside, you know, everybody just sees religion when they look at my face. And for me, the beard and the turban, those are just tools. Those are tools like my toothbrush. Those are tools like my morning meditation. Those are tools like my yoga practice. Because when I use those tools, I feel more like myself. And if I use my toothbrush, I don't stink. You know, so it's like that simple for me.
Okay, so talk about the turban. You said something that's really interesting to me, at least caught my attention, is the turban as a tool. For our listening on, this is fascinating already. So talk to me about, I've never thought about a turban as a tool. What does that really mean to people who don't have
Yeah,
a
it really, it comes from, you know, the Sikh religion, which I kind of fall under a little bit, and kind of it just by default happened, was based in India, and in India was very unpractical to have long hair. You know, like in many traditions, people keep their hair long. You know, it's like the American Indians. You know, like there's some traditions in Africa, there's traditions in Asia where all is like, even the Bible, you know, like with Samsung and those stories, like all his power was lying in his hair. So there is a yogic tradition which goes back 5,000 years ago, why a hair grows at a certain point at your body, right? If it grows at your eyebrows, at your hair, at your beard, whatever. And so in our Sikh lifestyle, I want to call it, rather than Sikh religion, because I really don't like being, you know, jammed into the religious thing.
Right.
It's, you know, the body is created in a certain way. We have long hair, and it is super unpractical to have long hair. You know, I don't know if you ever experienced having long hair in your life, but it is a lot of work. And so what really is an easy approach to it is to put it together, tie it together in a knot, put the knot on top of your head, and put a piece of cloth around it to keep it clean and protected. And in this way, you have the luxury to keep your hair long without it like being all over your face when a little bit of wind blows. And so that's the first part of the tool. Second part of the tool of the turban is that it allows the bones of the head, where they're a little flexible and they move a little bit, right? All these bones in your head are not like stuck together like you see in a skull, but they stick together over a lifetime. So they have a little bit of flexibility. And so by tying the turban in a certain way, where it creates pressure on the side of your head, it actually opens up and elongates the head a little bit and gives space to your pituitary gland, to your hypothalamus, to those super important glands in your brain, which help with deeper meditation and help really go inside and connect to your higher consciousness, which we all have this connection, right? We all have these chakras in our body. We all have this link to the infinite, no matter if we call it God or Allah or whatever. And so, again, the turban just becomes a tool.
Wow.
So for me, it took many years to get to this point where I'm like, hey, do I have to wear a turban? I not have to wear a turban? Am I a bad person if I don't wear a turban? I'm a bad person because I do wear a turban? Or, what is it? I'm so confused. And then I was like, but it feels good. Can I please wear a turban? So that's how I ended up, on that path.
Wow. That is, mind blowing. Boom. I can literally take the rest of this conversation and talk about that. How many people would have known that? That's why this podcast episode is so important. Okay, so
fun fact is most people who do wear a turban don't even know about this.
Oh, really?
So they wear a turban because their dad told them to wear a turban, and their families were Sikh and their grandparents were Sikh, and this is normal thing. But then what happens in today's world of 2023, these kids grow up to be 20, 25, 30, and then at some point they're like, hey, this is not me. Why do I wear turban? I feel so uncomfortable with it. Everybody stares at me on the street. I get called names when I walk down through a busy street. Like, why do I want to wear a turban?
Yeah.
And then they ask their dad and they say, hey, Dad, can you explain to me why I wear a turban? And Dad says, because the guru said, and that's why you wear a turban. And then they're like, what the fuck? What do I care about the guru? Sorry, it's okay to curse on your podcast, so you not have to rate it explicit. But this is really what doesn't work. This worked for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
we just did what our parents did because it was such a good way. Like it worked. It worked for Dad, worked for Grandpa, worked for great grandpa. Why shake it up? Why try something different? But then it's not me. It's not my path.
Right.
It's my dad's path.
Right. Well, in African American, I could say African American, I could say Black church studies in particular. It's the same principle that applies as it relates to why you attend certain church services you do and why you worship or the way that you do, right? One of the very rudimentary practices in African American church is called the ring shout. Now, the ring shout, this is a good example of what you're referring to when it relates to why, people who are in your lifestyle wear the turban. Well, in the ring shout in African American church is really a communal participatory process. It's really therapeutic as well. So when a person is going through a very tough time in life, they would do something that we call a shout, right? And that shout is usually a moment of euphoria, but it's also a moment of letting the stress and strain of the world that you are experiencing be expressed through the body, through very intense and emotional ways. So typically people are crying or they're shouting really fast. Looks like a form of dancing, but they have this expression. And then people who are bystanders will surround them and hold each other's hands. And that has two purposes. One is to make sure when they're shouting that they don't hit, fall, and hurt themselves, because they kind of go into this out of body experience kind of thing. But then the second part is it's a communal support. It's like that we're here with you as you go through this. So it's an expression without words. So young people, even my daughters and my kids, they didn't grow up. I'll be honest with you, right? We kind of disconnected from that a little bit, but they don't have a connection. They don't understand what that really means, and so how religion, at least in my background, can serve as it's a communal process. It's therapeutic, it's psychological, it's all inclusive. It includes body and spirit and soul, all of that, right? And so when they ask, why do y'all do that? I mean, my 10-year-old, he looks strange. He's he looking strange. Like, what? My mom, she does it all the time. He's like, what's happening right now? And I'm like, oh man, we got some teaching and learning to do. But yeah, please go on. I mean, that's a great example of how we can really learn from each other as it relates to why we do the things that we do, having a sense of meaning and purpose to it. So you said something a moment ago. You talked a little bit about the chakras. I was thinking about that this morning. For some reason, I kept having a vision. When I say vision, I kept having memory thoughts about a person I ran across on TikTok. And it's a really short memory for me. It comes and goes. But I remember it was this young guy, had dark brown hair, and he was explaining the chakras to the spine.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and I just remember coming in and out, just like, I'm like, why do I keep having this thought? I'm like, what is it to it? Can you help us who are listening understand maybe a little bit better what that all means?
Yeah, I mean, really for me, the most simplified explanation of the chakras is to kind of compare it to a tree. Because a tree is so nice and upright, it's super easy to relate to. So we all have our crown, and it's called the crown chakra. It's right on top of our head. It goes up in the towards the top in our belief system. No, we're trying to put words to these energetic parts of our body. So like bear with me when it sounds a little funny, but it's our crown, right? And it's our grace, it's our connection to the infinite, it's our highest seat of consciousness. That's really like the tip which touches the firmament, which is the highest, the closest to universe, to creator, to God, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then we got our roots. The roots are more important than the crown, right? That's our root chakra, which is the first chakra, which sits right between your anus and your sexual organs and it's on the bottom. It opens up towards the ground. It opens up into the earth. And that's our connection. That's our grounding. So between these two pieces, between the first chakra, which is the root chakra on the ground, and the crown chakra, which is, as per count, the seventh chakra, we have the whole alignment. And the centerpiece out of those chakra between 7 up here and number 1 down there is number 4, right in the heart. And it's right in the center. It's not off to the side like our physical heart. It's like the heart chakra sits right energetically right at the center of your body. And that's like the wheel where everything spins around. And back to our tree, that's like the center point from where the tree opens up its branches and where everything interacts. And so just between those 3 chakras, I won't go into details on all the other ones. That's really where we as humans function. We need to be grounded, and we need to flow through our heart, and we need to connect to the infinite. And if we have those pieces in place, then the other chakras, like your third eye point or your throat or your navel point or the sexual center, then those energies come in. And when all those chakras flow in unison, that's when you expand into your aura, which then becomes the 8th chakra as per definition. But it's really this flow and this expansion, which we all know. Like, even if you never heard about chakras, when you feel expanded, when your heart opens up, when you're connected, when you're grounded, when you're in balance, and when you're off balance. And so what yoga and meditation does for me, and the way I practice is it's a way to recalibrate my chakras by myself, which went out of whack through me being in a bad mood, me getting in a fight with my wife, me, like doing something stupid, which knocked me out of place, and allowing me to come back into my body, allowing me coming back into this energetic aspect of my body. And then suddenly this energetic aspect, when that vibrates at its full capacity, your physical body feels good. You feel good emotionally. Your mind is clear. It's much easier to serve others, to give, and to uplift those around us.
Wow. That's very, very, very good. To me, it sounds like prayer, And prayer, obviously, in my religious lifestyle, is a form of meditation. We use these words kind of interchangeably, right?
Oh, yeah.
So tell me this: how have you always grown up being in the lifestyle that you're in now, or did you get to a point in your life where
No,
you?
I adopted the Sikh lifestyle when I think I was like what, 23, 24, 25, something like that. And so it really started with a turban and with the beard, and I tied a turban, and I loved it a lot then. And I looked in the mirror and I said, "Oh my God, I look like such a wacko. Damn it, how is this gonna work?" So that didn't go
I
over so
wasn't
well with my
expecting you to
current.
say wacko.
No, like didn't go over so well with my current girlfriend. 95% of my friends were like, "Okay, now he's gone completely crazy," but a couple of people stuck with
Wow.
me. And it was really for me this where it's like, okay, now it's more real. Now I have an experience. Now really only the people who can see past this physical, flaw, whatever they were thinking, can truly see my heart and can see me as an authentic being and not see the color of my skin or why I have a beard or why I have a turban or whatever, but they can really experience me as a human being. Then that started to becoming real for me.
So what was it? I mean, so I hear you saying like this was something quite different from the environment you grew up in, the lifestyle you lived. Why did you think it was necessary to go this route? What was it about? You mentioned the color of your skin or whatever, so obviously there's something there. So can you talk a little bit about, kind of like what was it that said, I'm going to go this route, but and here's why it's necessary for me at this point in life?
Yeah, for me, it really, since I was little, I was always connected to a spiritual aspect of myself in my life. I always wanted more. I wanted to understand more. But growing up, I mean, I'm born 73. By the time I was 15, 16, there was not a lot happening on the internet. You wanted to learn something, you need to find a book, which came from God knows where.
Right.
And I started smoking weed. And that really did something for me. It really opened up my being, and it opened me up to these higher realms. And I was like, oh my God, I found the Holy Grail. This is amazing. I just have to smoke more weed. But unfortunately, what happens when you smoke a lot of weed, which I'm sure and many of the listeners know, you end up just being stoned, sitting around watching Netflix, eating chips. So that doesn't help. So
I'm
when I
sorry. I'm
found
sorry.
yoga,
I'm sorry. That's funny to me. So I'm in a part of the United States where weed is legal. So
uh-huh.
people, even though for me it's not, and even if it was, I wouldn't smoke it anyway. But uh, that happens a lot around here. So anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah,
It's
so
just funny.
that's what happened to me for years.
Yeah.
So I was smoking weed for like at least 7 years, I think. And then I started practicing Kundalini yoga, and then I got to the same sensations without being stoned. And I was like,
Oh.
whoa, this is cool. So there is another way. And obviously, Kundalini yoga and meditation is not the only path to get there. There's many paths, but that was the path I found, and I
Right.
started exploring. So I stopped with everything and I started practicing yoga and I meditated, and that's what put me on this path.
Wow. So, what is it about your path that, and now you're talking about Kundalini yoga. So explain that to people because I kind of know a little bit about it. I never practiced, but I've always witnessed. So could you explain what that is and why and how that is a spiritual practice for you?
Yeah. So for me, really to make it super simple,
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga is a chakra alignment tool. And there's 1,000 tools out there, and you can pick any. Prayer is one, meditation is one, going running is one, serving others is one. Like you can do Tai Chi, you can do a Hatha yoga, a million things out there how you can recalibrate your chakras. You can also just do it through pure awareness and consciousness. If you have the capacity to just pull that into your system, then you don't have to do anything. I didn't have that luxury. So when I started practicing yoga and I started meditating, I suddenly felt more aligned. I felt more at home in my own body. I felt more connected to my heart. I felt more connected to my voice. I felt more connected to the infinite creator, which surrounds all of us. I felt more rooted. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff works for me. So I want to do more of it.
Right. So alignment, like having a sense of knowledge of who you are is a big part of that, right? Which is, and a lot of people who are in different, I would imagine that's why a lot of people are connected to their religious or lifestyle that they're connected to, because they feel a sense of awareness of who you are. So, and I like the phrase that you use. It's an alignment tool. I never thought, man, this is good. So alignment tool for me is like prayer, meditation, Bible reading, or you know what happened to me? I'll give you an example. So real quick. So I grew up in an environment, a religious environment, that's focused on prayer, Bible reading, going to church, and community service, basically. And part of it was being told this is what we do, right? Sort of like the example you gave a moment ago about, hey, we just follow. We wear the turban because my grandfather or whoever said do this. So for me, prayer, Bible reading, community service, going to church was because you just do it because that's what we do. And then when I went through graduate school several times and did all of that, I began to realize something, that simply reading the Bible was good, but it wasn't enough. I'm like, how many times do I need to read this?
I can relate.
Right. And so not to say that I didn't think it was helpful, but there were times when I read or followed those disciplines and I didn't feel connected at all. It was like, I just kind of going through the motions. And then I started doing other practices like meditation with visualization, writing and journaling, having deep moments of thought and writing after reading. I felt like you said a moment ago, I was becoming aware psychologically. I was becoming healthier, relationally. I was more present, and I began to realize why it was important. Is that kind of what you're talking about when you're talking about kind of getting aligned here?
Oh, very much. And the alignment is kind of the ultimate outcome. That happens when you read the Bible out of love, out of compassion, out of these high frequency emotions, which are connected to the higher chakras from your heart upwards. And so these are these emotions which bring in these feelings of connectedness, of alignment, of being there. And so you can say a prayer, and it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're Buddhist, you're Sikh. When you say your prayer, and the prayer it's the smallest prayer of a 5-year-old child, but it's spoken from the heart in love and in compassion. That creates alignment in that moment in that 5-year-old. That it creates alignment in a 15-year-old and a 50-year-old in the same way. When you come from love and compassion and you practice your path with that love and compassion, you get amazing outcomes. It feels elevating. It feels like something you want to share with the world. Oh, we know how well that goes, We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But it's like you get so excited, you expand, you're high up there, right?
Yeah.
But now comes the dark side of it. When you have to read your prayer, because if you don't read it and I start shaking my finger and I say no, and this is bad, and you're going to be feeling bad because this is bad, you missed your prayer today, and then you start feeling shame and you feel guilt and you feel these heavy, thick emotions which pull you down and it make you small and it makes your aura shrink. And it makes you feel like, oh shit, I'm such a bad person. I'm so unworthy. God cannot love me because I did not read my prayer yesterday. That's a fucking problem. That's like when we all want to run the other way and be like, that religion, leave me alone with that religion. I'll do all the other ones, but the one which tells me to do something or shames me or makes me feel guilty or creates fear, that's the religion I want to run away from.
Yeah. And that's a big part of Christianity, right?
It's a big part of all the religions, unfortunately, because they are, they beautiful stuff, like Word of Jesus, amazing things came from that.
For sure.
And then it was 2,000 years of human beings in between, which were thinking like, if I can trick these guys to just show up, if I can just get them to church, and then I can just get them to read 3 hours of prayer every day, their life is going to improve 1,000%. So I'm just going to tell them they're going to go to hell if they don't do it. And then they're going to be inspired to do it. I mean, good intentions.
Right.
And it's the same good intentions I have had when I try to inspire people to do things which were amazing for me. And they just look at me like, are you fucking mad? I mean, you look like you're mad. Like, so I'm not believing a word you're saying. So,
wow.
That's kind of how I see it. So it really, these are all just pathways. But how do you show up on the pathway? If you pick up your Bible and you feel that you're expanding and you get a smile on your face, read the Bible an hour every day, because we want to be around you after you read the Bible, because you are a nice person to be around.
Right.
If you walk away from reading your Bible and you're in a bad mood, or I walk away from doing my practice and I feel shitty because I'd rather stay in bed and sleep, no one wants to be around me.
Right.
I run the other way.
Right. Well, and because the goal, I think one of the goals will be just how you connect with people, right? How does your lifestyle or religious practice helps you connect with people in a very flourishing way? I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from my own spiritual and religious practice and lifestyle. Like, if it's not helping you to be a better human being, then why are you participating in that? What is it that's going to help you be a better human being? And this is what Jesus talked about when he said, here's the full law and the prophets. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is greater than the first. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, people genuinely don't make the connection. They can get the love God piece. Yep, right. They get that. But love your neighbor, that's optional. And so,
And only if the neighbor behaves.
Exactly.
He's worthy of love.
Exactly. And I think that's problematic. I mean, I can understand the human part of that, right? But I think the higher calling, the higher universal calling, the higher spiritual calling is to learn how to treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated. And at the end of the day, right? So,
and to even take it a step further, not just to connect with your neighbor and be kind, but to go out of your way and see how you can serve your neighbor.
Wow.
Wow.
And no, that's great.
It really becomes a reflection of you, because you're going out to see how you can serve yourself, right? There's what the whole life is about. How can I get more of this? How can I get more love, more money, more happiness, whatever. But if I make it my life mission to really find out how I can best serve you, how I can make your day a better day, how I can have you be more successful, have more love in your life, and have more happiness in your life, guess what's going to happen to my life?
Right.
By default, the good stuff is going to come. But not because I want it to come, but because my real motivation and what really drives me is to make sure you're doing better.
That's right. So let me ask you this question. Great points. This is wonderful stuff. If you're listening, you can see the connections, right? No matter if you no matter what your religious background is, to me, it's obvious that you can see the connections of how these different lifestyles are kind of pointing in the same direction. And it doesn't matter what if you're wearing a turban or not, or bald headed like myself.
Exactly.
Your religious and lifestyle should make you a better human being. So let me ask you this question, my man, Amrit. So how do you help people as a coach? How do you help people who are dealing with the trauma? How does your lifestyle, your not just your religious, but as you say earlier, your lifestyle as a coach and just as a person, help people who are going through traumatic experiences in life? How can you help them?
But when we deal with a lot of trauma, when we deal with a lot of pain, when we have a lot of stress in our life, guess what goes first? That connection to the infinite from our crown, where we know that we have the answers, and suddenly we don't have any answers. And suddenly the only thing which makes sense is to grab a bottle of beer and drink that, because that's the only thing which makes me fall asleep at night, so I can wake up and do all that shit again tomorrow, which is not me.
Right.
And so that's where I get in with people and say, okay, what needs to change? How do you want to live your life? How do you imagine it? What can we do today as a 1% chance or 1% habit change? You know, in this habit book, this guy talks about that all you need to do is change your habits by 1% every day. And after a month, 2 months, you really come to a point where you change your whole life around. And so this is how I work with my clients.
So what are some of the common issues that you see with your clients? I mean, you kind of got it a little bit there, right? People who are, falling into all of these external stimulants because of their inability to connect or, be fully aware, I think is kind of where you're getting at there. So what are some of the issues that you have your clients get through? And then if you can say that, and then what methodology, and you talked about it a little bit, but is that question asking a specific methodology that you use, or is it just, hey, this is how I help you become fully aware?
Well, I use different methodologies. The question asking is one. I do, sometimes just have people close their eyes, put their hands on their heart, and do some long and deep breathing, and then just feel. A lot of my clients are men, around our age, who are connecting with their emotional body. And they're the first time saying, I have a job, 9 to 5, which takes me 45 minutes to get there, 45 minutes to get home. I have a wife who I want to be there for, who I want to hold space, who I want to serve, who I want to have a good relationship with. And I have kids who want to spend time with me, especially when they're small, who ask, like, why is daddy gone for 11 hours a day? At what place? And they want to connect with me. But then I come home, I'm completely exhausted. I can't take care of my wife. I can't play with my children. And I know I have to get up tomorrow again to go back to work. So this challenge, this pain, this stress which comes from that, that's what we're dealing with a lot in my coaching sessions. And so what we do in those moments is to really identify, who are you? Why are you here? Are you just here to serve your boss and to serve your family and to when you have a couple minutes, get wasted so you can fall asleep so you can even do it for another day? Or how do you connect to yourself? And so that's when it gets super interesting, because people are saying, oh my God, I never felt myself in this way. Oh my God, I didn't know I could connect to my own inner guidance. Oh, I didn't know I lost connection to my roots. I lost this grounding force in my life. Oh, no wonder I'm floating around. And suddenly, by us going into that, they walk away as better husbands. They walk away as better fathers. And guess what? Their job wants to give them, or their boss wants to give them a raise, because now suddenly in their work environment, everybody comes to them and it's a joy to be around them because they're expanding in their being. And now suddenly it all makes sense. It all comes together, and people walk away after a 6-month coaching saying, like, oh my God, changed my entire life.
Right. So as we begin to wrap up, what would you suggest, or maybe a good reading source or YouTube video or TikTok? Like, this information matters to people when they can totally connect with it where they are, where they exist, where they're showing up every day. So do you have, or maybe it's just your stuff. You want to tell people how they can get connected with you if they're interested in a coaching session. What can they read, articles or things that may be assistance to them as they consider what you have to offer?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not go down the path and say there's the one and only solution which applies to everybody, because it's not.
Right.
But I would say follow your heart. Find out if you're interested in stuff like reincarnation, read a little bit about it. If you're interested in psychics or mediums, find out about it. If you're interested in chakras, just Google chakra and you get the most amazing detailed explanations on the internet. But just expand yourself a little bit. Think a little bit outside the box. Say, okay, maybe I never thought like that before, but I allow myself to do some research, not feeling guilty and feeling shameful because my God might feel dissatisfied with me, doubting him because I'm looking up reincarnation or chakras on Google. But really come to the point where, you can accept that God is everything and it's the creation of everything, and it includes all of us, and it includes the chakras, the reincarnation, and the psychic. And that's where you can learn. And then it becomes interesting, and it just makes you a better version of yourself. What I always tell people is like, I don't want you to be a Sikh. I don't want you to convert to some other religion. No, do what you do. But what it will make you is, it will make you a better Christian. It will make you more connected to your true identity if you understand how other people live their life, why they practice the way they practice. And I promise you'll meet a lot of wackos on the way too. But that's part of the fun, right? That's part of the process.
So you're absolutely right. There are a lot of, if you want to be a better Christian or better whatever, then there are great resources and experiences and knowledge and practices that you can learn from anyone. And I cannot stress that enough. That is vitally important. So my last question for you before we move on, my brother Amrit, is what would you say to someone who's listening and they're in a traumatic experience? It could be they lost a loved one, they are financially in a rut, a relationship that's totally off kilter, so to speak, or off the rails. They're lost in how to make a decision that's very important. And they want to know, what do I do? Who can give me, how can I get answers? I know they're listening to us. What would you say to them to help them?
I would say find tools to go within, and whatever that tool is for you. But acknowledge and honor that aspect of you, that it is time to stop all the outside and try to do more and run harder and work harder and do harder, but really bring your energy inside. Connect to your center, connect to your heart, connect to your true identity of who you truly are. And we're not this physical, form we're all traveling with. That's just our vehicle. And that's great, great fun. Great. I'm really grateful for having such a well-functioning vehicle, but that's not who I am. And so the moment I go within and I connect with my true self and with the expansion of who I truly am, all these things become small, and all these things are very doable to overcome them. And if you don't have the tools, find someone who has the tools. Find someone who can teach you what they do. And look around. Look at other people who are doing well and who found a way to go within, and say, how do you do it? What do you do? I do Kundalini yoga and I meditate. That works for me. You do prayer and meditation. That works for you. Everybody has a own way. Find someone, find a guide, find a coach, find someone who can be on your side during this journey, because you don't have to do it alone.
Wow. What great information. You ended exactly where we started. We are a spiritual individual, a spiritual being having a human experience. Wow. Great stuff. I hope all of you guys got something wonderful out of that conversation we had with Amrit. What a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Man, if you've got anything out of this conversation, you have to understand this, that we are in a position to learn from anyone and everyone, no matter what their experiences are, no matter who they are, no matter what they've gone through. You can learn from anyone. And what we've learned from Amr today is extremely important as it relates to finding the tools that's going to help you become a better person. It's
Let's
going to
do
be
this on a
great.
regular basis because I had such a great time. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed connecting with you. So thank you for having me on. And for the
Absolutely.
listeners too,
Yeah.
if you want to know a little bit more about me, you can find me on my website, which is coachingnow.info. And also I have 2 accounts on TikTok, which I'm excited about. And I post something every day because I found TikTok is a great way to really connect with a lot of different and strange and weird people, and I love that. So lots of fun. Find me on TikTok and let's be in touch.
I hope your life will be made better. And I hope for those of you out there who are having hard times will take the advice that was offered to you today that's going to help get you on the right path. As it is, my saying, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the divine cause his face to shine upon you. May you experience peace in this life and in the life to come.